Janelle had to show me, yeah.
Okay, we're all here, right?
Yes.
I'd like to call to order a special board meeting for March 31st, 2021. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you haven't got one, we're looking at the flag in the room here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United States of America.
States, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In this effort to try and get everybody together, because a lot of us have been gone in that, I'm going to explain why we have this special meeting today. Last Thursday, I sat in on one of our monthly supervisor calls, and at that time realized that there were several other municipalities that were going to continue to use the state of emergency that's already been declared to allow them to continue to have virtual meetings like this if they want to, up to December 31st. It's not mandatory, but it allows you to be able to do it. And Will Hostler, our attorney, happens to be the West Bloomfield supervisor. So they did that at their community. He sent me our language, Patty wrote it up, and then after we wrote it up, first of all, I should go on and say, I started thinking about it at the Thursday call. On the weekend, I watched the news, and the news came on and said that we had about 8,200 people, I think, that got COVID. And it was Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, one of the three. And I looked back, because on February the 20th, I remember looking at it on my birthday and saying we had about 820, I think. And so in 5 weeks, we've had a tenfold increase. I just checked it today. It's still in the 6,000s. And what's happened is the state of Michigan is now roughly 10% of the new COVID cases in the entire country. And just to be sure, if you haven't seen it, I don't know, maybe you can hold that up to Benny. That's the chart, because there's a website I go to check it, and you can see what happened is around Thanksgiving was our worst part of the year. It was pretty good in the summer. By February 20th, we were down to about 800, and now you can see it's shot up pretty high. It's 6,000 to 8,000 a day now. Because of those two things, I feel it's prudent to adopt the same resolution that Will Hostler used in West Bloomfield. And I didn't check everybody, but I did call a few other communities. Holly's still going to do virtual. Rose is still going to do virtual. Milford's still doing virtual. West Bloomfield's doing virtual. I'm sure there's some others I just didn't call them all. Around us, the larger communities like Independence and Springfield and Brandon have decided they're going to try having the meetings. I think part of the problem is when we set this office up here, we know that after we get our regular board members for a regular meeting, there's only enough seating to handle about 12 individuals and maintain what the requirement is for social spacing. The problem comes in, if you recall, back in the spring, we did 3 meetings when everybody else was already virtual to try and stay having regular meetings, and not one of them stayed at 6-foot spacing because people start streaming in after the meeting starts for 10 or 15 minutes. And under the new rules, we would be required, as soon as we exceeded the capacity, which for us would be about 12 people, to have to close the meeting, set it up again a couple of days later, renotice, and find someplace else where we could do it. I personally think, and God willing, I hope I'm right, that once more people get this vaccine, we're going to end up seeing that the numbers will start to go back down again, whereas right now they're going up and we're worse than most of the country. I think when it goes down, I'm all for stopping this and having regular meetings. And if you want to add Zoom meetings for the additional part of the public to get in, I'm fine with that too. But I do not think it's prudent to go to regular meetings where we're pretty well darn sure from what we've already tried that if we do this, we're going to have somebody come strolling in, have to stop the meeting and move it somewhere else. And so I think we should adopt the resolution that Will gave us, and I think you all got a copy of it from Patty. The reason the interim state of emergency was declared by me was, I didn't realize this, and kudos to Patty for catching it. The original date that it terminated on was March 30th. And when I started, I thought it was the 31st because there's 31 days in March. But Patty caught it And so we looked at the rules, and the MTA magazine that just came out has the same thing in it. The supervisor is the only person that can declare a state of emergency for up to 7 days. So I declared it for 1 day to get us from March 30th to tonight so that we could discuss this and make a decision on it. It's my feeling that I think we should continue to use the existing state of emergency, adopt the resolution, we have to send it to the state police, but we have to do that anyway, and be able to have meetings on a virtual basis until we get some indication that the number's actually getting better. I think when you look at that graph of what's going on in Michigan, it seems to me to be, in my opinion, ludicrous to say we've now in 5 weeks jumped up 9 or 10 times as many cases as we had. And I think now's the time we should stop having virtual meetings. It doesn't make sense to me. So that's my position. In today's meeting, the only item on the agenda is really to decide if we're going to do this or not. And then I would like to give the board an update on the trip I had to the growing facility. Thanks. I was going to say pot house. It just doesn't sound right. Growing facility. So I'll give you that after we're done. With that, I'll open the floor. Do we have anybody else? Oh, David Fleet's on here. Okay. And Tanya's iPhone. Okay. So before we open it to the public, I want to ask the board if any of them want to make any comments or statements. And then if nobody has any comments or statements, we can make a motion and vote on it, then open it up for public comment, and then I'll get back to the grow facility.
Bob, I've got a question for everyone, please.
Jim, you're in the township, just so we're clear, but you're at your residence.
Yes, I am. A question is this: are there any rules prohibiting both the use of, let's say, this type of forum, meaning Zoom, as well as in person? Can we run them in tandem?
No, right now there's no prohibiting it. They do constantly caution us, as they do in the MTA magazine I got today, that you need to watch because things keep on changing. You know, when Patty and I first looked at this, we had something that I think it was an email from the MTA that said, if you have an open meeting and you have people in on a call, they can't comment at the meeting. Then subsequently, a couple of days ago, we got something from the MTA that said, oh no, they can still comment. So this stuff's kind of fluid and changing, and it makes it a little bit difficult to actually keep up with all the piece parts. But as it stands today, we could go forward and have both the in-person meeting and the Zoom call. The problem becomes if somebody comes in on the in-person meeting and exceeds the seating capacity of the facility you're in, you have to immediately cancel the meeting and reschedule it, because you got to give a new notice on it. It's basically got to be at least a couple of days till you reschedule it someplace where more people might show up. And I think what happens is, as difficult as it's been for us to get all the information and stay up on it from day to day, I cannot imagine in the wildest imagination how, I don't care how much education we did, everybody's going to understand it and do it that way. So if we have a public meeting and do it with Zoom until we get past this COVID, and one extra person comes into what the seating capacity for the meeting room is, you have to immediately cancel the meeting, reschedule it. That means at least 2 days because of the notice time that you have to put out.
Bob, I'm looking, and I appreciate that explanation. I'm looking for when we're out of COVID, so that we could run them in tandem, because quite frankly, I think it's a huge convenience for the community to be able to, hey, I just don't want to come down, but I want to know what's going on.
I think you're right. I think all of us have kind of expressed that over the last few days. And as far as I know now, we think we'll be able to do that going forward. But again, I only put the little caveat in there because so much of this has changed from day to day. I'm sure we'll hear more by the time we finally get out of any restraints that are required from the state. But right now, you can do both, and I think you will be able to do both post pandemic. And I would agree with you. I'd be in favor of letting more people join in that don't want to come down, because I think it's a convenient way to do it.
Okay, that was helpful. Thank you.
I'd like to say to Jim's question about going further.
This is Patty back, and she's.
I'm Patty.
office as well.
I'm the clerk. So I just wanted to comment on Jim's question. And things may change in the future to where, yes, we can Zoom, and I agree too. It is very convenient, especially for folks at home. You know, if the weather's bad, they don't want to get out, they can Zoom, you know, be part of with comment and all. But my understanding is, as it stands right now, it's only until December 31st of 2021. And then I'm sure after that, they'll tell us if we can continue to do the Zooming and the in-person meetings and, you know, going forward.
Well,
Okay.
to your point, Patty, this township news that just came into my office this afternoon, an hour ago, says near the end of the article on discussing these meetings, such authority to hold electronic meetings extends during the duration of the county emergency declaration, but cannot extend beyond December 31st, 2021.
Right.
Finally, the plain language of the OMA allows the township board to adopt an ordinance to declare a local state of emergency. So,
Right.
in here, I seem to recall them saying they were looking at possibly being able to do it post December 31st, 2021. At least they made that the end of December instead of the 3rd.
Okay,
But your point's well taken, Patty, and confirmed in the latest thing I just got this afternoon.
So I am aware of more than one rural township that uses Facebook Live and has predating COVID in order for people who can't make it to the meetings to attend. And they've never had any problem. No one's ever inhibited from them. We still do have something called local control up here. And we need
However minor.
Well, exactly, but we need to exercise it whenever we are able to, because our job is to work towards the, you know, for the constituents. I love the idea of keeping Zoom or Facebook Live or something like that in tandem with meetings. I think we need to seize the opportunity, even though it is a moving target with the rules that they are establishing, to inhibit business as usual with any business in Michigan right now coming from the state. We need to educate the public so that when we can have in-person meetings, they know what they are ahead of time. We can inhibit people from coming in. I completely understand that. I get that. But if we offer both, that should help.
Yeah, I agree.
That should really help. What I will tell you is I'm not in favor of is saying we have a state of emergency when I have found nothing today that says we have a state of emergency.
Actually, to that point, I talked to Will this afternoon just before we had this, and he cleared up a couple of things for me. First of all, this actually operates under the existing declaration for state of emergency until December 31. So that's the emergency from the original. Yeah.
So we're not telling our constituents here that there's a problem.
We're using the same one. And what he says adopting this document does is it doesn't mandate you have to do it till December 31st.
No, I get that.
You have the option of doing it that long. So, because I hope I'm right. I don't think this is going to go to December. We got a lot bigger problem.
No, but I don't want the people to think that we have a problem here at Ortonville because we have declared a state of emergency when every call I made today does not substantiate that.
Is this, can I have a comment?
Sure.
Okay. Is this ordinance, or I'm sorry, is this resolution here written with what you just said, as far as it doesn't have to be a local declaration of state of emergency?
We took exactly what Will Hostler used for his job as supervisor in West Bloomfield, and the document's identical, except we took out West Bloomfield and put in Groveland.
But they did it based on what they were continuing as a local.
Yeah. Because he's the one, that's why Patty had asked me a question, and I said, I don't know, let's call him right now and ask him. He said, this does not mandate you have to do them. It allows you to do them. And you're using the existing declaration of emergency that already goes to December 31st.
So as a local board, we are going to potentially choose to extend the state's emergency.
It's actually already there. We're not even extending it. We're just using the declaration they made that covers through December 31st and being able to allow to continue to use the virtual, Zoom meetings that we have. this is exactly what he did.
That doesn't, yeah, I mean, that doesn't fly with me. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
okay.
want Groveland.
Well, and Ken.
Well, it is, I just changed the name
Right.
from West Bloomfield to Groveland.
I find that I don't have like local data that says the number of COVID cases here in Groveland Township merits us closing the door to anybody coming in for an open meeting act. I was actually kind of looking forward to April's board meeting being open to the public. I don't know how many people will show up. I'm hesitant to even guess because it could be, 2 or 3, or it could be 10 or
30.
20. We don't know.
We don't, but that's the problem. We tried doing it 3 times and all 3 times, more people than could be allowed in the room showed up.
So there is a procedure that the state, has a guideline that says, if that happens, this is what you are to do. I personally would like to follow that, see what happens. And I mean, if we can have in-person and Zoom at the same time, which is what I'm thinking, hearing you guys saying, we can do both in-person and Zoom. Most people I think are gonna Zoom in. I think they enjoy Zooming. From the people I've talked to out in the community, they're like, I like Zoom. Some people do like to come in person. We just don't know. We can't have that certainty, those numbers, because we aren't there yet. But I do know that this whole past year of COVID shutdowns and lockdowns and everything else has fundamentally changed what people see as a necessity to go out for. And I'm just not sure, I'm not sure how many people will show up and how many will not. So prior to making, I feel like I'm jumping the gun by saying, let's close and only do it Zoom when we are perhaps expected to be opening our doors in April. I understand the numbers are up in the state.
It doesn't, but you're wrong on what you just said. It doesn't say you have to do Zoom. It says you can do Zoom.
It says you have to do in person.
This resolution says we can have the option of doing it either way. That's really what this says.
So if we adopt this resolution, we can have it open to the public. And if
Well, we could,
exceed-
but I'll be honest with you, I don't think we have a public, I cannot see how anybody can look at the fact that the state, I don't know what they are in Groveland and nobody else does either,
Right.
or any of their communities. But when the state has a 9 or 10-fold increase in the number of infections in 5 weeks, that we know for sure, it's up 5 weeks, 9 to 10 times what it was. You can bet somebody around here has got it. And we know that when we tried 3 meetings in a row, all 3 of them couldn't comply with it. I think the only prudent thing to do is wait till we see those numbers coming down, which I'm hoping will be another month or 2, and we'll be down, and then go to a public meeting. I can't see how you can rationalize saying, just because I can't tell you who in the township has it, we should just have open meetings and hope the heck none of them bring it in here. Because we've been very diligent, and I think in our own way of making sure that we're keeping people apart in our office pretty much, and everybody's staying without a lot of outside travel and exposure, and nobody has gotten infected in our office except our ordinance guy, and he got it working at one of the other communities and stayed away for a couple of weeks.
And I appreciate that we've remained open when others have not.
And I think
And that
remaining-
speaks
yes.
very good to
You
the
still can't get anybody in Holly, I don't think.
Right, yeah, so
It's all true.
So I think the most important thing is to make sure we preserve the ability to keep the office open and provide the functions.
Right.
And let them use the Zoom meeting. And if people are comfortable with it, I think that's great. Then maybe they'll use it after. But I just cannot see in the face of a 9 or 10-fold increase where Michigan now represents over 10% of every new COVID case in the country, in our state. The wise thing to do is say, let's remove the restrictions on it and hope the heck this time it works. And if it doesn't, then we'll start moving around to the bay of the fire station or
And
something.
what can we do to let the community know what the expectations are, what the perimeters are when we do have open meetings, because at some point,
Well, I
we
think
are,
that we can tell them, and we can do a good job of publicizing on Facebook and YouTube that, you know, unless they come out and tell us again outright you can't do it,
right,
that, you know, we're going to have both venues available, so you're welcome to come in. And if you come in, we won't be chasing you out, but if you find it more convenient to use Facebook or YouTube or whatever to get it, we'll have them on there too.
So what if we are, I mean, we all go to the grocery store, we go to doctor's appointments, things like that. They give you a COVID screening at a doctor's appointment, and they tell you, you know, you have to have your temperature taken, and then you have to answer their COVID questionnaires. And they even tell you, if you're feeling any of this stuff, they call you the day or two before and confirm. And if you're feeling anything, don't come, reschedule. I think we've been through this for a year. I gotta believe that people understand those expectations. And can we have somebody, maybe from the fire department, who knows how to do all this screening and everything? Can we have somebody standing outside to screen people as they're coming in? And can we have a sign that says, you know, we have reached our maximum. If you choose to come in, we will have to shut the meeting down.
I know, but you can tell that people will do it anyway. And you can't say that everybody's used to it, because if we did, we wouldn't have 9 or 10 times the number of cases in 5 weeks that we had. Obviously, some people are saying, I don't give a damn, I'm doing it anyway. We're talking about something that it's either going to get better in a couple of months and we're going to be in a much better position, or it's going to get a whole lot worse and they're going to give us a lot more restringent things. I just don't think it's hard to argue. Huge increase, now is the time to slack off. I just don't see that. So that's my position, and I'm sorry, I feel that way.
no, don't be bad, don't
Right,
feel
and
bad about it
You
at
don't
all.
have to apologize.
I'm not apologizing for it. I don't like it any more than anybody else does. I don't relish the fact my wife feels like she hasn't been out of the house in practically a year.
Right.
You know, I don't like it, but I think it's the prudent thing to do. And I can tell you, as somebody that is over 70 years old, I'm particularly acutely aware of it, because the statistics at my age group, and I think I'm in pretty good health, but the statistics at my age group are like 16 times higher than they are for anybody else. So it's just reasonable not to do it. And we have a higher number of senior citizens in the township as well. I just think it's the reasonable thing to do.
And you don't feel that we are alarming the citizens by saying we have an emergency order,
It's the same emergency order that the state did. We're not actually doing a new emergency
but the
order.
declaration that came out that you wrote,
That was for the one day.
But what
I
are,
only did it to get us to today's meeting.
so this resolution that we are
It's this-
expected to approve or not today
Yes.
does not state that this is a local emergency.
No,
So I
this
guess
is
I'm-
exactly what we'll use at West Bloomfield.
I fully kind of expected the state to
Right,
come out with
come out
another
today,
something today and say,
You and I both.
yeah.
I expected the state to come out with something a heck of a lot better than what they have. The whole thing, in my opinion, has been terribly handled. But the result is, we gotta deal with it, so.
So this is exercising our local control.
Yes. And we're not the only ones.
Oh, no, and that's, again, that's not.
Again, I
it's
think
just-
we've done a good
I don't
job of
wanna
keeping
be
the
an-
office.
I don't wanna alarm the people here, and I do want them to afford them every opportunity to communicate with us.
Yeah. Well, I think we do that because we're all back at regular hours at the office. We have not closed like a lot of people did. Still can't call to the county and get a hold of anybody there.
I'm
They're all working at home. You can't call up to Lansing and get a hold of
I know.
anybody. None of them are in their office. We've been pretty good, I think, about making this work here, right? And not getting anybody infected yet, so.
And so what would your comfort zone be in deciding when to have an open meeting?
I think when we see those numbers start coming down pretty significantly. Obviously, they
Statewide or Oakland
Well, the
County?
only ones I have are statewide, but Oakland County's kind of been in the mix with it. Every time, I look at that page almost every day. And Oakland, Macomb, and Wayne County are all kind of in the same operating range. Maybe one's got 600, one's got 800, next day one's got 7. And then another one's got 6. They're all around the same numbers every day. So that's the website that the state put out. And I pull that up and you can click on the county and see what it is. And then they give you the graph there for the whole state. So I think we need to see those numbers coming down, and I'm hopeful that as they get more people
It's
vaccinated.
gonna be a while because there's a phenomenon called vaccine shedding, and as long as people are getting that, we're gonna see this.
Yeah, well, but I mean, you can bet if the state continues on the track it's on right now, they're gonna do something else. I don't think they're gonna just sit there and say, hey, I guess we do it and see how many people die. I can't believe that will be the answer from the state.
What's
So-
going on now?
And so I think until we see some kind of meaningful improvement, I was actually pretty optimistic when the middle of February got down to about 100. I said, hey, we kind of crested the hill there at Thanksgiving and we're coming down and things are sailing along. I think we're going to be out of this pretty quick. And then it turned around, and by the weekend, this wasn't something that we set out to do
Right,
last Monday. This all came about between a call I was on Thursday with a bunch of other supervisors and the news reports on the weekend. And I just think it's the prudent thing to do. And I don't think anybody here is panicking over it either. We just need to get a better set of statistics than what we got right now.
local statistics.
Yeah,
Well, if we have a local, but I don't know that we ever know. And still, they don't even tell the fire department when they take somebody in if they actually have COVID or not, because it's a HIPAA violation. So it's all kind of.
But if you call the hospitals, they can give you numbers of inpatients. They can't give you names, but they can give you
But
numbers.
they probably won't be able to do it by township anyway, because they're gonna end up doing
No,
it
you're
by
right.
postal address,
But
and it
if you
either shows
call-
up as Holly or Ortonville.
You're right, but if you call local hospitals, you can get numbers and
But-
they
but then how do
don't
you extrapolate-
substantiate an emergency.
What part do you extrapolate out and say, well, out of Holly, maybe we were this many?
Right.
There's
Oh,
just
no,
no
I
way.
know, right.
A
And it-
question,
Sick is not good.
No, I agree.
everybody, just double check my logic. So if we were to approve this as a board this evening, this can still be a rolling or month-to-month decision, that as we see the statistics, fine.
And that's what I cleared up with Will late this afternoon. He said, it's not mandatory. You have the option to do it now through December.
so what would we then be agreeing to right now if we were to say yes to this? What would?
Well, then we
what would
have the
call it?
option to extend it through December. Now, but I'm telling you, I don't want to mislead anybody. I see no reason to have April's meeting, which is around the corner, literally, in person.
And you're saying based on numbers, so we may get only, whatever, we could get 2 weeks' notice and it could change. When is going to be that cutoff for, say, May's meeting? That we know what we're gonna be doing, because we need to let people know, that's
Well,
why, yeah.
I think they have to check the website and see what we post, like we do when we put the meetings out. If we think the number's cleared in May, I don't know, that'd be pretty quick, but if we think it's cleared by May and we can have an in-person meeting, we'll put that out on the website like we do, so they'll know. We can put it out on the sign then.
So again,
I don't want to make that statement now because I have
oh,
no
no,
idea.
no, but
what's
I would
coming
like
in
that to
between
be
now and
part
then.
of the education that goes out to the community of this is gonna be a month-to-month thing. And you're going to have to stay on top of it. Call us, as always,
Mhm.
call us if you have a question. But we need to make sure that they understand not just the perimeters, but that this month we may do it. And you know what, maybe we do it in July, but we can't do it in August again. So pay attention.
Yeah, well, I hope that's not the case, because if
I
that
know.
happens, that means we're having a real bad turn somewhere.
I
I would like us to get to the point where we're comfortable, we've crossed that hurdle, and now we're getting more normal.
I would like this to just be, okay, we can do Zoom indefinitely or Facebook, and I'd like to see Facebook Live, if for no other reason than people would know which Facebook page is really ours.
Mhm. Yep.
So, yeah, I said that out loud.
Okay. All right, there any other comments?
No,
My gut just tells me that if the state thinks that it's time for us to have some open meetings open to the public, I would really like to give us April to try it and see what happens. We have it open, we have everybody educated about, here's the expectations, here's the parameters. If you're feeling any of these symptoms and thought, please don't come,
Right.
Zoom in.
But you never can get that message to everybody, we
But-
know that.
No, we can't, but we can have somebody outside to greet them. We can have, just like they do at other places.
And you can't stop them. How many
No.
people
No,
have
you
had
can't.
somebody say, sir, you need to wear a mask, and they say, well, I don't have to wear a mask, I got a medical reason. We have no way to validate that, and that happens in a lot of
Yeah,
places.
it does.
Well, I think if we just say, look, these are the things, if we're gonna do it as an open meeting, we have the parameters that are already set. It said, you know, it's social distancing, masks, and we'd have the room all set up to accommodate the specific number of people, which besides the board and the fire chief and the, you know, it's maybe 12 or 13 more people, that's it. We know this, and we attempt to do it. There's a set of procedures in place that they've already said, if it goes over, this is what you do, boom, you stop the meeting, you start it again 2 days later in another place. And I do think that, you know, everything you're saying is very valid. If I could see some hard data about exactly what's going on here in Groveland Township. But I also think that with the expectation from the government and the health department that, you know, you're gonna start holding your meetings in person again. If we don't give it a try to see how it's going to work, then we won't know. And if it doesn't work the way it's supposed to, we have a procedure for basically changing it. And
The procedure, Teresa, is very cumbersome. We tried it when we were supposed to do it at the beginning, and not one time did it even come close to being adhered to. And I think even if you sit there and tell somebody you can't go in, the room is full, and they say, tough, I'm going in, you're back to saying, I gotta cancel the meeting, republish it, have it 2 days from now, and put it somewhere else. I cannot understand, frankly, how anybody could look at the data for the state, which is all we really have, or the county, and it's pretty consistent there, that we could say now when the stuff is spiking up 9 or 10 times the volume, this is the time to see if we can make it work, when we couldn't make it work back when the volume was low. So I understand you have your opinion and you're entitled to it, and I respect that. But my opinion is this is ridiculous to have a public meeting until we can get something that looks like it's actually getting better, not zooming back up again like it was in November.
Teresa, excuse
Are
me,
we-
Teresa, I
yeah,
hear your point pretty loud and clear, and I subscribe to it. My sentiment is waiting another month isn't the end of the world. We have the option of changing as we wish. So I just wanted, just to throw that out.
so that is the case. That's what I'm trying to make sure I understand before I vote. If this goes through, can we say, okay, we're gonna Zoom only in April, and then we will look at the numbers again, and then decide if we should,
That's
Absolutely.
exactly what he said.
That's exactly what I said.
and the wording of this says that.
This is from Will Hostler. That's exactly what he told us on the phone about 2 hours ago.
What were you gonna say, Patty?
Well, I was just gonna see if the discussion had ended, if we thought we had, anybody else had something to say,
Is there any
and we can move forward with a motion.
other comments from the board?
I'm more comfortable knowing that if the
Month
data
to month.
changes and we can do this so if we're saying right now, by my agreeing to this, that I'm agreeing to a month-to-month decision based on the data from the county,
Well,
or the
I'm-
data from, I mean, wherever you
I want
get
to
the
cap
data.
it, because I don't know where the data is going to ultimately
Okay.
come from, but we're making a month-to-month decision. We have the option. That is
Because those
absolutely.
numbers are not, those are not comfortable numbers for me, seeing that, you know, I mean, I'm a numbers person, right? 9, 10 times more
Well,
doesn't make sense to me. But why the state hasn't looked at the same thing and said, boom, we have to make this
I
mandatory.
can tell you, I can't say with certainty, but I think what appears to be happening is it's quite obvious to me that there's complete dysfunction between the two political parties in Lansing. Absolutely, completely dysfunctional. So if one says we want to do this, the other one will say the exact opposite. And that's why I think they can't make a simple decision that most people, I think, would look at and say, "Eh, we better do it for a couple more months till we see what happens."
Okay.
They can't do that because they just always take the opposite position on everything, it seems, from what I can see. And it's not much better than the national level, so.
If the discussion has ended, does anybody have anything else to say? I'll make a motion. Do we want to take public comment prior to the motion, Bob? Joyce would like to talk.
We take the vote, okay, whoever that is. I can't see the name on it. Go ahead, Patty.
Joyce Cummings.
Oh, okay, Joyce, I'm sorry. But go ahead, Patty.
Do you want me to make the motion?
Yes.
I motion to approve the resolution on a month-to-month basis, looking at it and going at least for the April meeting Zoom, and then opening it up hopefully by May, where we can take some people in and maintain the distancing, because that's my motion.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that with the caveat or with the stipulation that we educate the public as to what the perimeters are. So we
Yes.
are, okay.
I agree with Gina.
Okay. Okay, are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay, if not, I guess, Patty, you got to take the roll call vote, I think.
Jonah,
Or Danielle, I'm sorry.
I can,
I didn't see.
Todd
That.
DePalma,
Yes.
Gina Musarelli,
Yes.
Jim Christopher,
Yes,
Patty Back,
yes,
Teresa Bills,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry, who's it?
It was Joyce Cummings.
Joy, is your mic on? We can't hear you. Is your mic on? Do you have to do something? Just a minute, we'll try and get your mic on, Joyce.
Vinny has to unmute her.
I tried. There you are.
there you go.
I'm on.
Here's Joyce.
All right. First off,
Hear you now.
okay, you can hear me?
Yep.
You still have a very terrible mic situation there where I could hardly hear I can hear Teresa, but I can't hear whoever that is on your left side, Bob.
I'm sorry, we're trying to get some new equipment, but the one guy didn't get back to us in time. But on April's budget, we're going to try and approve getting some new equipment to enhance the sound quality on these.
Okay. Well, I was wondering if the weather is nice, can't you do it outside by the pavilion? So it's outside and,
Well, you probably could if we knew the weather was going to be nice, but lately here it's been nice one day and bad the next day. So it's been kind of hard. I know tomorrow I'm supposed to go get my second shot and they're telling me it's going to rain tomorrow and I think it's chilly. Last time when I got the first shot, it was a nice sunny day and we didn't mind standing outside for about 30 or 40 minutes. But I'm going to tell you, my wife's not going to stand outside if it's raining tomorrow.
right.
But we could if in fact, we're pretty confident that we have these, and maybe we will next month. I don't know.
If that becomes the prudent thing to do, absolutely, we'll look at it.
Who was talking? I can't tell who was talking.
That was Gina Musarelli.
Okay, Gina, she needs to talk up right now until you get your equipment. Because I have my speakers,
Duly noted, Joyce.
I have my speakers up all the way and I still have trouble hearing her.
Yeah. The problem is we need some mics to facilitate these meetings going forward. And we were supposed to have them to approve tonight, but the vendor never got back to us. So we're getting another supplier. We're trying to approve it on April's budget, hopefully.
Okay. Well, I have a question. How long are the other communities, have they decided to go viral? You said you talked to other communities.
I can tell you that Holly's still doing it. Rose is still doing it. West Bloomfield's still doing it. And Milford's still doing it. I didn't call all of them because there's about 21 townships, but for sure, those other three or four, whatever that I gave you there, are all doing it.
Now, are they also going month to month?
I would imagine they'll do it because it's the same set of parameters and issues that govern us, that govern them. But, so I would think they'll do the same thing. If it looks like it's a lot better in a month or two, I'm imagining they would go back to meetings, but nobody mentioned that on the calls. They just had, on our supervisor's call, just 2 or 3 of them said, yeah, we're staying virtual for now. That's all they said.
Joyce,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Uh,
Joyce?
Not really. You need to scream. You need a microphone all by yourself.
Well, I'm telling you, I've never.
I hope he's wearing a mask.
So what would your preference be and why?
On the,
Why do you what is your reason for wanting to come in person?
well, if I'm available to come in, I'd like to come inside to, kind of a face-to-face type of thing instead of on Zoom,
Okay,
Mhm.
for one thing, because of the technical difficulties.
yeah.
I'm Frontier. My internet is over the phone.
Yeah.
Comcast wanted $5,000 to run a cable up to my house.
Yeah.
So we're not going there.
No, I understand. That's
I
why
got the
I
same
come,
problem. I
yeah, that's
understand.
why I come in, because I don't have it. I don't even have Frontier at my house, because yeah. But anyhow,
Oh.
all right, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. And you're sounding much better.
What I think the
I
problem
can hear
is,
you.
the way this sets up on the computer,
Yeah.
it looks like whoever's right in front of it, that's usually me in the middle,
Mhm.
you pick up okay. Once it gets out of a little range distance, the
Right.
farther away they are, the harder it is. What we're trying to do is get some mics that will tie it all together so that won't happen.
Right.
Well, I just wondered, why couldn't they use, I'm sure you have personal computers for everybody.
No.
I mean, I can hear Jim fine, I can hear Patty fine, I can hear you fine. It's
Yeah.
the other two.
They're on
Teresa's
their computer.
loud anyway, so, she was a teacher, right? So she has that voice that,
Your voice.
but Gina is not. Or do I have
No,
that
She's
backwards?
just a quiet little church mouse.
Oh, can you put that in writing?
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Give it to my kids.
okay.
All right, I was just.
Thank you for your comments, though. We'll try and get that fixed.
Okay, I was just wondering how, if the other communities were going month to month, or are they doing it 2 months? I mean,
They never said in the call, they just said they were gonna continue to do virtual meetings. I would suspect they'll do the same thing we're doing, wait and see when things actually look like they're getting better. I mean, some of the townships still don't even have their people back in the office. If you can believe that, where we've kept the office open the whole time here.
yeah, well, there's people working down at Oakland County also, so.
And most of them aren't in the office either.
Yeah.
Treasurer's office is empty.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I had another question. Now I can't
Well,
figure out.
See you later. You can always call us tomorrow. Somebody will be here. We'll be happy to answer it for you if it comes to you later.
Yeah, because I hurried home tonight to get to this one. And that's another thing, no matter how you vote, if you vote for month to month, the board in general seems to do things that they want to do or you want to do versus what the residents want to do or have done.
Well, I
So,
don't think that's actually a true statement, but you
What
can say
way?
that if you feel that way.
Can I ask Joyce a question?
Yeah.
Joyce,
yes,
people don't call us and voice any opinions up here, so we really don't have any way of knowing what it is that the residents are saying. If the residents do want, whatever questions they have, I would really, really love it if they would just call the office and ask those questions, or call and state what's on their minds. Because we don't, like I said, I would love to do April open, just so I could see how many people are gonna show up. We have
Right.
no idea. So,
I mean, I've been to meetings like Stablix. I remember going back to Stablix. I mean, the fire marshal had to come in and say, hey, somebody has to leave. Because that place was swamped, your building was swamped with people.
Joyce,
And I
part of
don't know,
what happens is.
I don't know what's coming up on your agendas as to how many people are going to come in for these meetings every month.
No idea.
Right. And I don't have an idea either.
But one of the things you're saying where people have different opinions, I think what happens is a lot of people put stuff out on the social media and it's incorrect. I had 2 people that came in this week, while they were talking to the gals that said about Barron Road, said, yeah, we know the Barron Road got paved because he lives on there. And I came out and I talked to both people. That's not at all how Barron Road got paved. And I explained to them that Barron Road got paved because one of the trustees that we used to have lived in the subdivision on Perryville Road, just west of Barron Road. He came in with the homeowners association president several years ago and said, we'd like to see if you can pave Barron Road. That's how the request for Barron Road paving went in. It was not, and it's not because Bob DePalma lives on Barron Road, because he doesn't. And it's not because Bob DePalma doesn't like to drive on gravel roads. I don't, and I haven't for 42 years. So it was because the homeowners association in the subdivision and the trustee that lived there came into my office and said, we'd like to talk to you about paving the road. Barron Road is a primary road, and the only roads that qualify for paving money are primary roads. We get 80% of the money from the government. So it was on a paving plan laid out by the township 20 or 22 years ago that someday it would get paved. But until that trustee and the homeowners president came in and said, will you try and get it paved? It was never a project. And when we put it on the project list, it was only from Perryville to Grange Hall Road. It was subsequent to getting approved and already in for funding when the county came to us and said, one of the counties up north can't use their federal aid money. They sell it to us in Oakland County for 80 cents on the dollar. And if you want, we'll try and do all of Barron Road for you instead of just half. That's exactly how, and the reason why the road got paved.
Oak Hill got done first.
Okay.
Well, before that, part of Groveland Road got done first because we had no complaints there.
Well, I think you made a comment one time, and I think the comment probably got out about you being able to get to work in your classic car or something, and, you know,
Oh, people keep on saying that.
wouldn't have to go on a dirt road type of thing.
No, people keep on saying that. I've never said that. It's never bothered me to go down M15. I've gone down Barron Road if the road's dry and hard packed, but I'd be the first to tell you, I bought my house on Groveland Road because when it was a cornfield, it had pavement in front of it. I am a car and motorcycle enthusiast.
Yeah, I
I
know.
collected them for decades, and I told my wife, we'll move to the country so you can keep your horses, but I'm not living on a gravel road. And the pavement stopped 300 feet past my house. I didn't get Groveland Road paved then. It was already done when I bought it as a hayfield. So anybody that tells you I said I was getting the road paved because of that, or any of that other malarkey, it's all BS. And two people came in and said that this week, and I explained to them exactly what happened. And when they left, they were both smiling and said, thanks for letting me know what it was.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, Joyce.
Enough of
I'm
that.
glad you brought it
We
up.
got off the subject, but anyways, I'm sure somebody else wants to ask a question.
Are there any other questions?
I don't think so, not at this point.
It looks like, is that Jeremy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm late to the game. I was just wondering if at any time in the future, the township would be putting the meetings on their YouTube channel. As you know, I've been doing it for years up till we couldn't, and I have meetings with hundreds of views, and I know it gives the residents a chance to rewatch or see what took place
Let me ask.
at
Vinny.
their convenience.
Jeremy, I'm
Yeah.
glad you asked that question. Vinny, who's our cable manager, why don't you tell them what we do with the meetings after we're done?
I have been posting all the meetings since I started back in June on both the planning commission, BZA and board, special board, every type of meeting we have has been posted on our YouTube page. And usually I also share it on Facebook the day or two after, saying, here's the meeting link for YouTube if anybody's missed it. Every board meeting that has happened since I've been here has been posted within a day, or even sometimes the same day, later that night. And if you go to our township page up in the YouTube or on Facebook, you can find it. We have every single video on
We've done it for the last 4 years, I think.
well, ever since I've been.
No, not for 4 years. No.
No.
The videos that we do for the last 4
Well,
years, the meetings since Vinny's
Yeah, the
been
board
doing it.
meetings, I have ever since I have been here, I've made it a point to get those out. So they have definitely been on there, and I update them whenever, like this meeting will be posted tomorrow, and it will be there maybe even tonight if it buffers in time.
Okay.
Okay.
I subscribe to the Groveland Township YouTube channel and I don't get any notifications.
Okay, well, I'll do this real quick. I'll show you right now on the, let me do this, just so you can see.
I mean, I never looked. I just never got notification. I would get the notifications when Bob did one of it, like about the RV park, construction, stuff like that.
Well, let me share my screen and I'll show you that if I go to my videos on Groveland Township, right here under playlists, you will see I have the Groveland Township board meetings. And if I click on that, I have every board meeting from July until there's what is it? Is this the March? No. Yeah, March. So I have every board meeting on, and and I have PC and BZA as well. So they're all right there and you can access this from our website as well through this link.
So are the
Okay.
notifications coming from Facebook or from YouTube?
I post them on both. So if you check either of them, they'll both be
So
there.
They have to like you on Facebook in order to get the
If you
notification?
follow the Groveland TWP page, that is the Groveland Township page, but make sure it's TWP, not Township. I don't know why whoever set that up made it was TWP. If you like that page, I always post them and you'll see the new postings on there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I can't see. Is there any other? Anyone else? Okay, if there's no other questions, there's one other item I'd like to bring the board up to, because I went to a grow facility in Orion Township last week. Because in talking to Chris Barnett, the supervisor there, he made me aware of how they decided to accommodate the legal marijuana situation. And in a nutshell, I'll give you the 10-minute version of what'll be longer when we get done. But they don't allow any retail outlets, but they do allow grow, test, or delivery facilities. And so he arranged for us to go see one of the facilities, which I think had literally $24 million invested in it. I have to admit, I've never been in one before. It was extremely impressive, very professional people, fantastic facility. It was like walking through a pharmaceutical plant. And in addition to that, the individual, the attorney, who's one of the principals there, made a point of telling me that I just handed Chris a check last week for $170,000 for our annual permits. So it has some real potential, I think, that if we could adopt a similar situation, it might be worth looking at us doing it here in Groveland. I'm not ready to do that yet. I'm trying to get some information together. I got their ordinances, which I think are very good and would need to be a little bit modified for us. I sent them to Will Hostler today with a note to say, call me when you get these so we can talk about it. And what I will try and do is get the documents I think we would need ready so the board can have this work session to discuss it. And then I will try and set up a tour for all of the board to go to the facility, because I think you need to see it to get the full impact of it. I can tell you right now, if I drove you to where they are in Orion, you would never know it. You could park in front of it, and unless I told you which building it is, you would not know. But once we see if the board and the rest of the data I'm getting pans out the right way, then we'll have to have some public meetings and decide if the community wants us to go ahead with it. But I think it's an excellent way to generate some revenue and not get exposed to some of the other problems. All of the supervisors I've ever talked to over the last couple of years that have had retail outlets, that's where the complaints have come in. It's the ne'er-do-wells that want to rob somebody, know where you got to go to get the money or the marijuana. And those are the kinds of problems that they have. Everybody that I've talked to that has any kind of a grow facility, though, has been extremely positive about the experience and the impact for the community. So I've got some more work to do. I just want to let you know that Chief Mason and I went there last Friday. It was extremely enlightening. I'll try and set up a tour for all of us after I get the documents kind of teed up the way I think we would need them. And then if everybody's in agreement, we'll put it on a public agenda for a meeting to see if we want to go through and modify those ordinances or not. I just wanted to bring everybody up because that's stuff I've been doing in the last few days. So with that, does anybody have a question about Teresa?
Are you considering like putting something like that on the property sort of out there near the
Because
lobby?
here's what they did in Orion. The only place you can put even those grow houses is on industrial property,
Mhm.
nowhere near a church or school or any of that stuff. And so they're all basically kind of behind the GM Orion plant in an industrial park area. There's nothing else anywhere near it. The closest thing we have to that, frankly, is the township's property where the mining's done on the pit, the primary part of the pit. And all the conceptual drawings we've put together so far for the ancillary uses to promote the recreational area are going to be on the Grange Hall or I-75 frontage and over where the Mabus building is now is kind of the industrial end. There's a big area in the middle that we just said future staging area because we had decided what we wanted to put on that acreage, but that's probably a place where it would be very advantageous. They do not allow these facilities to be on a major thoroughfare. They don't allow any signage on them. There's no marijuana leaves painted on them. I have to say they did everything right to make this as completely non-disruptive. They've been there for a while. The facility's not 100% operational because it takes them about a year to stagger their crops so that they come out all throughout the year. But they have had zero complaints on it. And the other thing that's been beneficial is the financial backers on the large scale growers have the financial wherewithal to get what they need in there. And by that, I mean, they use a lot of electricity. And for those of you who might know, I tried to get a production laser shop that a guy I know owns a laser company, and he wanted to put a production laser shop out here on our township property, which would have brought about 110 or 20 good jobs for the community and some nice taxes in. But when we took a look at it, lasers use a lot of electricity like grow shops do, or grow houses do. And the cost for the electricity was more than the cost of the property. So he looked somewhere else. They had a similar thing with this in Orion. But in that case, the grow facility organization said, that's okay. We'll pay $1.5 million, build me a substation out there. And so, you know, that's something we need to figure out how to address because a preliminary analysis says that Consumers Power says we only have about 1,000 amps of service left. Frankly, that's about 5 houses. So to get what we want eventually on the township property for the tax base, we're going to have more electricity out here. And frankly, the easiest way to do it might be with a grow facility. And the other thing they put in their ordinance, which was very good, they are not allowed to qualify for any tax exemption or anything else.
Right.
So besides the money for the permits they got, the 2 facilities that were there generates about $40 million worth of tax base. So that's the kind of thing that adds money to the township's budget, but adds 3.5 times that much money to the fire department. So if we want to fix things long-term, you cannot do it in a township that is owned where 40% of it's owned by the state of Michigan and the county, and you're not getting enough money to do diddly jack with. And so you either have to get it from the residents or you have to get some sort of a business district. And that's why we've been focusing on that Dixie Byway. And this may be a part of that, but when I get done with the rest of the research, I'll keep everybody abreast. I just wanted to bring you up along the way because I hadn't really had a chance to talk to everybody since I went there. And I'll try and get that stuff in the next couple of weeks. And if we can get it put together, I'll see if I can arrange a tour. But for somebody who's never used marijuana, I have to tell you, I was flabbergasted when I went through there to see how professional the operation was. And the people were all top-notch professionals in what they were doing. So if there's any questions, I'll try,
Joyce.
but I kind of gave you the rundown on it.
Joyce
Joyce?
has a question.
Yeah. Hang on, I think your mic is still off, is it?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, now you're on.
Have you driven down 8 Mile Road and smelled the marijuana in the air?
Those are probably all the, those
Dispensaries.
are the dispensaries, and I agree, they're a problem. In fact, even though we don't control people that grow their own marijuana or those for up to 5 other caregivers, I know there's a number of them in the township, and some of the neighbors by them complain about it. There's just nothing we can do with it. On this facility, I can tell you, when we walked through and saw what they have, I have never seen that many HEPA filters in my life anywhere.
But they're in their process of starting their plants and everything. So
Well, they've got about a third of the plant up and running already. You cannot smell it. They have the most extensive filtering, operating pump systems to that place that I've ever seen. And I've seen some pretty big water pump operations inside warehouses because of my son's background and the fish stuff that they do at their company where he works. This stuff puts it in pail. But I'm telling you, they filter everything. Now, I will agree that, because my son, one of my sons is, I said, can't you smell that guy smoking marijuana? I have a very bad sense of smell. I said, I can't smell nothing, son. When they opened the door to one of the grow rooms, I could smell it. It was pretty pungent then. But that stuff is so filtered that they do an outstanding job of
Yeah, but
controlling.
it's
That's why I
being-
said you could stand outside the building, you won't know you're there.
it's being filtered to the outside air. I mean, that's just like all these restaurants out there. You know, they're filtering it out to the air from their kitchens, and that's what's going to happen in these marijuana places.
Well, but they filter it and control it with the equipment they have. And if you put it where it's not near anybody's house, I'm telling you, they have not had one complaint in Orion Township. And I think they got 40,000 residents.
Well, you'll probably need a bigger facility for the next meeting that you start discussing this marijuana facility.
I'm sure.
Find that now, Bob.
But I can tell you, Joyce, I've had a number of people that said they wanted us to have retail outlets, and we get a lot of calls from people that want to know if they can grow it for themselves or on their house. And I tell them the same thing to everybody. If you're doing it within the state rules, you don't have to ask me. There's nothing we can do about it. And I can tell you that most of the complaints that I get about marijuana are from people saying, I can smell my neighbors growing it next door. There's one near me. There's nothing you can do about that. But they
Right.
don't filter it like this place does.
Okay.
Joyce, the industrial ventilation protocols that have to be put in place are not local control. That is a state controlled thing. So, and they are very stringent and very specific. The Department of Licensing and Regulation spells it out very clearly, and you would be very surprised at what they do. So you don't smell anything when it hits the outside air.
Okay.
I thought the same thing when I went there. Part of the reason I went there was I thought the same thing. I bet it smells like whatever it is my son keeps on asking me if I can smell, you know, and I'm just telling you, it's unbelievably impressive. They have spent millions of dollars to do it. But the key to it is the people that are doing it in Orion are all Class C, larger scale growers, and they all have the financial backing to be able to do it. I mean, for a guy to come in and say, yeah, they started out by trying to do it in several spots in Detroit, and they bought up a bunch of property. Detroit made it such a headache for them to do it. They literally said, we just scrapped it and walked away from millions of dollars.
Now, question, if you allow one in, do you have to allow other people to come in and grow also?
Well, in Orion's case, they've limited the number of licenses they allow, and they've had no contesting on it. The problems that I've heard about that have been like Lapeer, I think issued, I could be wrong on this, but I think Lapeer County issued 6 licenses for retail outlets, but they took applications and had like, I think 30 or 36 people apply. And I don't know what methodology they used for assigning it, but whatever it was, as soon as they assigned the 6, I heard the other 30 all sued them. So they'll be in court for the next 100 years probably fighting that. That has not happened in Orion. And that's a key issue that I would have in discussing this with our attorney, because it's not going to, the way you control that is by limiting where it can or cannot be. And frankly, in the case of Groveland Township, the overwhelming majority of the township is zoned either recreational or residential. There's very, very little industrial property.
Well, that's what worries me is the odors and having so many parks around us, the recreational part of it,
Mhm.
the families and everything. So,
Well, but again, I said, if you went there, if I told, go over, drive behind GM's plant and drive around in the industrial parks that are there, I bet you can't figure out where the marijuana is.
okay.
Okay.
Is that off of Brown Road?
Uh,
Is that where the GM?
yeah, I think it's the one behind Eagle Valley. I think that's where it is.
Okay,
It's in Orion Township. I think it is the one behind Eagle Valley. And
okay,
there's a bunch of tech park stuff back there. There's all kinds of buildings. Most of them are something else, but drive around. I think you'll find you won't have any idea where it is unless somebody tells you it's in that one over there.
okay. I'll take you to lunch someday.
Okay.
All right, thank
But
you.
we'll have public meeting because we wouldn't do that.
I
without
know.
The people aware of it, but
Yeah.
I still got some more research on it. I'm just trying to let everybody know in advance.
All right, okay, thanks.
Anything else?
Could I ask an off-topic question in regards to the detour for the Barron Road project?
Sure.
Are they gonna grade Jasmine? We got a letter in the mail like a year and a half ago that Jasmine's the posted detour, the signs are up. Just wondering if they're gonna increase their grading and chloride schedule since it's gonna be the detour that's posted to the public.
I would assume if it gets bad, they'll do extra grades on it. We used to have the benefit that the local foreman actually lived in Groveland Township, but he retired a few months ago. But if it gets bad, I'm sure, you live on Jasmine, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
so if it gets
600
bad,
between
they're
the
not
two
doing it.
curves.
My suggestion is to call the 4804 number because they respond to those and they get gigged if they get calls on that. But I'm sure they would typically, if it is a problem, end up doing it. The question is, I don't think they know right now how many people will take Jasmine or just say, I'll go all the way around M15.
Yeah, I understand that because we've already got like a little sand pocket, that downhill that comes down by the first DNR, before the first curve where the DNR parking area is for hunting. There's already a little sand pocket showing. They show up every summer. Just,
Yeah,
my concern is with the increased traffic load of it being the posted detour, if the road commission planned on, paying extra attention to the road.
typically, I'm sure he will check that periodically when Tom goes around. They will try and do that on a detour. Usually that's the case. But right now it's kind of early. I think the frost is out of the ground. I hope.
I think they just pulled the restrictions, I believe, like this
Yeah.
week.
Yep. Yeah.
All right,
so,
thank you.
Once the frost comes out, you get that kind of sloppy period in the spring where
Yep.
it don't do any good to grade mud, you just push it around.
Oh, I agree 100%. It's just,
But we've
If-
signed up again for 5 coatings of chloride, so they'll do that.
Yeah.
Anyway. Typically on a project like that, if it gets bad, they would probably send the chloride truck over a couple of times to touch it up when they're doing their primary roads, but we'll just have to wait and see how it goes,
all right, thank you.
Yep, anything else? Okay, if not, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Support.
By Gina. Speak up, Gina, we can hear you.
I can't hear you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Good night, everybody.
Oh, what time?